We are back with our third episode of CIIC-LIVE. Today with us we have Mr. Suman Mukhopadhyay, who is the Vice President and Director of Banglanatok.com. Banglanatok.com is a social enterprise with a mission of protecting the rights of children, women and indigenous people. With years of experience in development and financial sector, he drives the entrepreneurship initiatives of the company. He works with the state government, IIM Calcutta Innovation Park and leading universities and academic institutions in Bengal. Hello sir. So we start with the first question.
Sure.
Good afternoon, sir. Sir, firstly, you being a social entrepreneur, what are your views on for-profits and non-profits?
Okay, so there are for-profits and not-for-profit. There are two different entities or the structure of enterprises possible. So for-profit typically will have shareholding structures where you are expected to share your profit as dividends, right? So that's the for-profit. So when I'm saying profit, so basically you are making a surplus, which is what you are considering or calling it out as profit, and then based on your board's decisions and your overall vision, you're sharing that as kind of dividends to your shareholders. So that's the for-profit stuff. And not-for-profit is where you really look at the potential of the surplus being plowed back into doing what you in terms of the objectives that which is kind of long term that you want to kind of keep pursuing. So the profits are typically plowed back, not really shared. So if not really profit, so let's say surplus is plowed back into the kind of work that you want to do. So that's the primary difference and let's say if you really look at the very simplistic stuff is the kind of you bring in some amount of money through various mechanisms of maybe grants, some kind of sale and of your services, etc. And then your expenditures kind of match them. So that's the model you typically see in not-for-profit.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, with respect to non-profit organizations specifically,
Yeah.
how do you think PR teams are important for their growth and?
Oh yeah, it's very important. Very important. Come to think of it, when I say PR, I would probably calibrate it a little bit purely because PR in anybody's mind would probably think that you need to spend a lot of money in that. But not-for-profit by definition, by charter, expected to spend a significant part, if not everything pretty much, into program expenses. Program means things that is part of your, the reason that you exist. So let's say if you're existing for, let's say, child and women causes, then all the money that you bring in are expected to be spent on that as a program expenses, not really on things like PR, etc. But at the same time, PR is very, very important for your stakeholders because you have sponsors, you're probably bringing in money from various stakeholders. The stakeholders need to believe and have some faith in terms of what you actually do. So your work needs to go to them in terms of communication, in terms of consistency of your plan, and the larger audience. I mean, the people for whom you are working, people who are supporting you in that work, and also the tertiary or the secondary stakeholders who could be let's say government agencies, could be the newspaper people, and the people at large. So they also need to understand the kind of work that you are pursuing. And that's where I think PR becomes very, very important. But in terms of the tools and the technologies that you use would be very different, and expected to be very different for a not-for-profit, because they have to innovate significantly because they will have typically a resource constraint in terms of how they want to kind of move forward on that. But yes, having said that, PR is a very, very important tool for making sure that your communications, your work are going out to the right set of stakeholders appropriately and at an appropriate time frame. Yeah.
Okay, sir. Sir, in a social entrepreneurship, how important is like donations and things like, because you do not have direct investments over here, so how essential are those? Can a social entrepreneurship run without those, or are those essential?
Okay, social enterprises to kind of go back to the point of profit, for profit and not for profit. Social enterprises are not essentially not for profit. So, because end of the day you are talking about enterprise. Enterprise are expected to generate profit. It has to be sustainable. So any enterprise that is worth the salt of calling itself an enterprise has to be sustainable. And if you want to be sustainable, you have to generate to generate enough income to be able to sustain your business expenses and your growth, etc., etc. So that way, any social enterprise has to have a model by way of which it should be able to sustain itself. Now, to your point, what are the mechanisms of probably earning that kind of, or maybe certain supporting that kind of expenditure or the growth plans, etc., that you have? I would think there are interesting models available. And there are many social enterprises that have experimented very successfully. Even to give our own example, we have a hybrid model. We have a for-profit company, and we also have a not-for-profit society. Because ours is there are a lot of such businesses that will have a business model which is based on primarily grants. So grants will come to you from donors. You can choose the kind of donors that you want to work with. So let's say we work with national, international donors, and government and non-government donors. So based on the thematic areas that kind of sync up with the kind of work that you want to do. So there we have a structure where the not-for-profit helps us to align with the charter of those the funding agencies, because there are a lot of funding agencies, particularly those who are working in the development sector. They cannot work with a for-profit organization, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that a social enterprise has to be necessarily not for profit. They can have a mix of this. So you can do certain amount of mobilization of your funds, your work, the core area of your work through a not-for-profit model, and then you can have business transactions, which is, so let's say, give an example. If you are working on craft or art or traditional goods, etc. So far as mobilization on ground and making things work, skill building, etc., that you can probably do as a not-for-profit model. And then subsequently, once you have the goods to be, that needs to be sold, if you want a, institutional buyers or large buyers, they would expect you to be a for-profit player. Otherwise, they'll be very uncomfortable working with you in terms of your professionalism, the structure, the processes, etc., etc. So that's where I think social enterprises, first is they need to be necessarily sustainable, and to be sustainable, one has to be making sure that the business model is such that your earnings are enough to substantiate the kind of work that you want to do.
A study has revealed that in case of non-profit organizations,
Right.
workers are less likely to receive promotions, or they have comparatively less promotion opportunities. How far do you think is it correct, or?
Not really. If you come to think of it, not-for-profit doesn't necessarily mean that they're not organized in a professional way. So the structures, etc., and the challenges that are being thrown at, and the opportunities are plenty. Because when I'm talking about not-for-profit, primarily in our scenario, so if I take our example, we are close to around 110 people. We are 18 years into this business, and we have ample opportunities for people to probably to grow, because we had people coming in. And the beauty of not-for-profit organizations or people working in this domain, we may not necessarily have requirement of a very specific set of skills. So if you are passionate about doing something, and if you want to bring change or if you want to make change happen, and you are aligned to a certain set of activities that you like to do, you can actually come here, and you can grow fairly quickly, because here in a not-for-profit, because which is not very, very structured typically, There are, of course, very large not-for-profit where you have fair amount of structure. Even there, I would think that the opportunities are many in terms of people to grow. Purely because the nature of challenges are many, and if one can show the level of comfort in terms of handling complexities. Because there you are talking about, there you are not really restricted by a particular nature of work. Your deliverables are not very clearly defined, because the challenges are many. You are working with people, and your ability to handle people, your ability to make change happen on ground with so many stakeholders, that I think is a key set of skills that help people to grow. And there is no dearth of opportunities for people with the right set of skills and the right set of ideas to grow within a not-for-profit organization. And the other thing is, come to think of it, not-for-profit, we have so many opportunities for not-for-profit people, because there are so many in the country. So as people who typically move from role to role, from companies to company, I think, or organizations to organizations, the same level of opportunities are available for anybody who would think that you want to take up very different set of challenges somewhere else in the country or even outside the country. So I think there is ample opportunity for people to kind of take up new challenges and grow. However, in terms of numbers, it obviously cannot match the numbers that a corporate organization has, because you're talking about a huge base. Here you are not really talking about huge bases. Most of these organizations into 100, 200, 500 kind of. So there, to that extent, it is restricted in terms of numbers, but opportunities are many. Yeah.
Okay, sir. So finally, you're associated with the Catch Them Young program. So can you please tell our audience much more in details about that program?
Sure. So Catch Them Young is actually, we have been thinking about this entrepreneurship and making sure that entrepreneurship is a preferred career and life choice to youngsters. For the last six and a half years. Now, why it is important for youngsters to understand that what are the kind of opportunities available. Now, in the past, the kind of programs that we ran, the kind of contests that we ran, we necessarily look at people who are already into maybe early stage of businesses. But now, with Catch Them Young, very specifically, we want to go to the colleges, institutions, institutions of learning, where students are at a very advanced stage of making up their mind in terms of what they want to do. They're acquiring certain set of skills. I think that's the most appropriate time to expand their horizon and let them know the kind of opportunities that exist and the infrastructural facilities in both hard and soft available for them to tap into the entrepreneurship as a career and life choice. The reason I say it's a life choice because entrepreneurship is much more than career. You are actually attached to something where you're not really looking at something which is 9 to 5, much beyond that. And Catch Them Young, the program we just launched the program a couple of weeks back. As of now, we are looking at the campus ambassadors who would be the kind of anchors to kind of spread this program. We are actually looking, we are requesting interested, motivated youth to participate in the campus ambassador program, who would then be taken through a particular very structured program of building capacity, so that they understand what are the nuances of this program, entrepreneurship as a whole, and then subsequently spread it within the institutes. And then of course we talk about ideation as workshop, and then bring up your idea, participate in a business contest, and then subsequently take you through the process of the entire process of business ideas being validated by a very experienced jury, and which is where you kind of showcase your talent, your skills, your ideas, etc. in front of very interesting set of people, first including media, where you want to celebrate entrepreneurship. We want to celebrate people like you, youngsters, who want to kind of take entrepreneurship as a career and life choice. We want to celebrate you as part of this program. So Catch Them Young is primarily, in summary, is to celebrate entrepreneurship and attract youngsters to come and take entrepreneurship as a career and life choice.
Okay, sir.
Yeah.
Okay, sir.
Thank you, sir. With
Thank you.
this, we end this interview. Thank you.